Welcome to We All Serve, the podcast featuring leadership lessons from and conversations with those veterans that have served in the United States Armed Forces. Meet your hosts, Robert Lewis, a proud enlisted veteran that served active duty in the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah! And Shalom Klein, who is an officer in the United States Army Reserve. Hoorah! They both agree. We all serve.
Well, hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of the We All Serve podcast, episode number 14, if I'm counting correct over here. And yes, I can count because I serve in the United States Army. So there we go. Great way to kick this program off. I just figured I'll just jump right in because right now there's only two of us on the screen, and sort of we're an equal match over here. As soon as I bring on our esteemed guest, then I'm going to be outgunned and outnumbered, and I'd rather get this little rivalry out of the way right now. So either way, with that in mind, brother, friend, Robert, how you doing?
Well. I'm so glad that you got that out the way. You know, our guest will notice that you had to bring in this next guest because, of course, the Marine Corps is the best. There's no other competition out there. So I just want to let everybody know that, you know, you're outnumbered just by me being here.
Yeah.
But I digress. Man, it's so good to be here with you again, brother, for another episode of We All Serve. This is a great opportunity to talk to an individual who is connected and works with a giant in the industry, and has served his country for many, many years, and has a little flair to add to it as well. We'll get into that a little later.
The flair. There we go. And so that's always my plug in the beginning of the show, is if you are listening, you should be watching. And if you're watching, you should be listening. So make sure you click subscribe. These episodes are available on YouTube and on every major podcast platform. The analytics, the response has been absolutely incredible. So make sure you're sharing this with friends. And, you know, that's a good opportunity for a station identification. You know, there are so many podcasts that are out there talking about the negatives and the challenges that exist. There's PTSD, there's depression, there's a lot of reasons, why, to be sort of discouraged. This podcast, We All Serve, is really about feeling encouraged by watching the contributions of those that have put on the uniform into society at large. And everybody can learn a lesson from service. And as we always say, it's not only about putting on the uniform, it's really about commitment and service to community. And I'm inspired, watching what so many amazing people are doing. I will say that I am actually just coming off of a drill weekend, a long drill weekend without much sleep, by the way. And I did hear from many of my soldiers. I intentionally asked and had conversations about what are they doing in terms of volunteerism, and heard some amazing things. And that's really what all branches of the military, really doesn't matter which, teaches you. It's that overall commitment. And I know that our distinguished guest and I know are both involved in the Travis Manion Foundation, and certainly, I heard from two soldiers that are very involved in TMF and ran the virtual run on 9/11. So that's inspiring to me, and that's what keeps me going. How about you, Robert? What's inspiring you these days?
Absolutely. Well, as we talked offline, there's always, transitions in life. And one of the things that you have to understand when you're transitioning, no matter if it's from one service from service back into the civilian life, or transitioning jobs, you really have to have a sense of peace and calm. And one of the things that's keeping me actively, moving now is to understand what that transition means for me, and to kind of echo your point on what's going on in the world. A lot of negativity out there, so much, we could talk about it, really every day, all day, because it comes at us so much. And so comes at us so fast, especially with social media and everything that people are engaging with. But I also saw in the Military Times that suicide was up amongst military members and veterans during COVID-19. And so I just want to say that this is another reason why we do the podcast. We want to make sure that we highlight the positivity that's out there, but we also lend resources. If you know someone who's struggling or dealing with something internally or a mental health issue, please look up the local resources in your area. Find numbers that you can call to find help for that individual. Don't just look the other way. As you are probably a service-minded person yourself, that's a service in itself. And just to look out for people who at times may need someone to look out for them because they can't do it for themselves. So I spent a lot of time, brother, monitoring that, but also taking care of the family right now, and all the good things that's coming along with school being back in session with my kids. Yep. So yeah, man, I'm just like you, man, always looking to see what's next, what's going on, and staying woke, as they say, with it. And I'm excited because I get to outnumber you again today with our next guest.
Yeah, well, let's just get it over with. Let me just I will never say that. I will never say getting it over with this amazing guest. So with that, I'm going to bring him on the screen and introduce Colonel Beau Higgins, who was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. Graduated from Jesuit High School, attended the University of Virginia in May of 1989. And in April of 1990, completed Officer Candidate School and commissioned as a second lieutenant, and was assigned to the 2nd Radio Battalion, 2nd Surveillance, Reconnaissance, and Intelligence Group in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where he deployed to Somalia. I know Colonel Higgins has served over 25 years, retiring in 2014. And when he retired, veteran unemployment was higher than the national average. And really, thanks to amazing folks like Colonel Higgins, certainly things started to change. And I know that many companies that are involved, like Amazon and like Walmart and so many others, have committed to initiatives around veteran and military spouse employment. So we're going to talk all about those areas. As I mentioned, Beau Higgins retired as a colonel. Colonel Higgins has a master's in business administration from George Mason University, and a master's in military strategy from Air War College. And I believe, Beau, you're married to the wonderful Elizabeth, actually not far from us in Green Bay, Wisconsin. One daughter, Casey, and 3 sons, Jimmy, Connor, and Cooper. And many awards and commendations for an incredible, honorable career in service. So it's absolutely a pleasure to welcome Colonel Beau Higgins to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
Great to be here today. Really appreciate it, and excited to share a little bit about my story and a little bit of what Amazon's doing in the military space, and any way I can help. It's great to be here, and really appreciate what y'all are doing for the veterans out there as well. It means a lot. It takes a village. We all got to do our part. So again, thanks for what you're doing to get the word out and help those folks that are out there that are sometimes hurting these days. So good stuff.
Appreciate it. Thank you for all that you continue to do, continue to serve. So as they say, let's start in the very beginning, the very best place to start. You decided to join the Marines. Maybe that's the only thing that I'll hold against you in this entire conversation. But you made a decision to serve. And all kidding aside, you made a decision to serve. And I'm just curious, what was life like in the Higgins household? What are you part of a military family? What caused you to go to OCS and join the best and the bravest?
Yeah, so my dad was actually a Marine. He had been an enlisted Marine. It was before I was born, so I didn't have to go through any deployments or him being away from home when I was a kid. But I grew up with him talking about his buddies and stories of him at boot camp and, as a junior Marine out in California. And he maintained that friendship with a lot of his friends from that boot camp class. And he was a character in a lot of ways. So I think it was something that was always just in the back of my mind of possibly joining the Marine Corps. But I went up to college and I had no plans whatsoever to get into the military. I played football at Virginia my first year there as a walk-on. I realized pretty quickly that I was not going to be an All-American in football anytime soon. And I did become an All-American in my fraternity house. I was excellent, social chairman. And had some good times. But finishing up college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't interested in going back to school at the time. The job market in the late 80s was not that great. We had a big stock market crash less than a year before. And I saw a recruiter on campus, a Marine recruiter, and I went and started talking to him. And he's wearing those dress blues, looking pretty good. And, and it sucked me in. So I started talking to him then, and as they say, the rest is history. It just made sense. It was something that I wanted I wanted that next challenge in my life. I didn't think it would be something I did for 25 years. I really believed it would be, I do my 4 years, I would get out, go back, get my MBA, and head back to New Orleans. But I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people, fell in love with the culture. And it became, a great thing for me. So it was not planned, but it ended up being, the greatest thing that ever happened.
Wow. I got hooked the same way. Colonel Higgins, those dress blues in my high school, man, I was like, I got to get me a pair of those.
Yep. That's it.
But that was just part of my beginning. But I also see. I didn't know that your dad also was a Marine. Wow, so you have a band of brothers through and through. So growing up in Louisiana and eventually, like you said, a 25-year career, we have something kind of in common. We both served during Iraqi freedom, and I was a part of a MU, the second MU, but the conflict was, I think I was about 10 years prior to you. But needless to say, you also were at Camp Lejeune. I was at Pendleton. So my question for you, if someone who is not like yourself, because you have a tradition, you actually have a tradition of Marine Corps in your bloodline. But if you were talking to, I always ask this question, a 17-year-old Robert, and I have no one in my background that actually served in the military, and I'm mulling over the decision. I'm not going to college, but I know I got to do something. How would you advise me?
Yeah, for me, the military, it's not for everybody. And I admit that. I think we'd all admit that. But it is for a lot of people. And the reason it is because of opportunity. And whether you do 3 years or 30 years, you are going to get a lot out of it. You're gonna learn leadership skills. You're gonna, I say the Marine Corps gives you a master's degree in leadership, right? You're gonna learn how to lead. You're gonna learn, if you're a 17-year-old kid, and I have kids in high school right now with no real direction and can't really figure out what you want to do. It's a great place to learn about yourself and to be part of an organization that is going to set you up, for life. I think we've all in the military, you run into those folks that served only 3 or 4 years back when they were 18, and they remember those days as the best times of their life. And these are 70-year-old guys or 70-year-old women. So that experience in the military is truly life-changing. And the thing these days, even better than it was maybe 20 years ago, are all the benefits it provides you too, right? So again, if you only do 3.5 or 4 years, the opportunity to get your school paid for, the opportunity to get training in technical fields, all of those, the opportunity to see the world. There's nothing that compares to that, as a 17, 18-year-old, or if you come in on the officer side, the experience and just the amount of responsibility you have as a 22-year-old to be responsible for people, 25 people in a platoon, and all the inventory, millions of dollars of equipment. There's no other job in the world that's going to give a 22-year-old that many people and that many things to be responsible for. So you have to kind of grow up fast, and you have those opportunities to lead, which really, again, as now being on the other side of that, I recognize those skill sets that make you successful in the military are going to translate over and make you successful in the real world as well. So again, for someone that's doesn't have a plan, doesn't know what to want to do, it is a great opportunity to get those skills at a place and a level that no other way can you get that opportunity, especially at that age.
Great answer. Wow.
Yeah, it's 100%, and I see that from the folks that I serve with all of the time, whether it's an E1 or an 09. There's a certain level of leadership that service puts you to the test with, and you come out as a different person. I mentioned this on a prior episode. I went in at the old age of 29, thinking, after already having a career. I started working when I was 18, and I thought I didn't have much else to learn. And I certainly it certainly taught me a lesson or two. It's pretty incredible. So Beau, I have to ask. You've served in a variety of different positions, deployed numerous times. Primarily, my understanding is in intel roles. Some interesting experiences. Reflecting on your career, reflecting on the various roles that you had, including many command roles. What was your favorite? What was your favorite? What was the moment that now, looking back, 6 years later, post-retirement, that you just, reflecting on in your office, you're like, I remember those days. I kind of miss it.
Yeah, there's a couple, but I'll start with one that stands out in particular. So on 9/11, I was the intel officer for 15th MU. We were actually in Darwin, Australia. We had just finished up our training on 9/11 itself. So we had just finished playing kind of an end of training rugby match with our Australian hosts when we saw the towers get hit. And we all kind of knew things were going to change at that point in time. But from there, it kind of led to a series of events that placed our MU going into Afghanistan on the longest ever ship-to-shore movement in the history of the Marine Corps in November of that year. So pretty quickly, we went from a MU that was going to be doing training exercises with our partners in different countries to a real-world operations. And we hadn't really been at war before for a long time. So it was an interesting time in the country. I think it was, and I talk about this, what was the feeling like on 9/12? I mean, this country was united like we never have been. And, these days it's tough, right? But if you think back to that feeling that everybody had at 9/12 and the support that our unit had as some of the first forces into Afghanistan, there was nothing like it. I mean, just the pride I felt to represent my country going into Afghanistan and fighting against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, and to be on the point of that spear with so many people that were just, emailing and writing letters and being just appreciative of being out there, I can't compare it. I ended up doing 3 tours in Afghanistan and 3 tours in Iraq. That first one was just different because of the unity of the country, just the feeling, the patriotism we had, where you knew you were representing the country. And we also had been part of a unit, a MU we trained up for 6 months prior. We were ready. I mean, we were the right people at the right time to be in the right place, and we made an impact. And there's nothing better in life. Again, I talk about people say, is the Marine Corps tough? You're gone a lot. I'm like, well, that's what I wanted. I signed up to be in away games. I don't want the game to be fought in America. I'm fighting overseas. So, you're playing in away games, and we were happy to be that force. We were ready to be there and made a true impact. So I think just because of the pride that we had, the pride the country had in us, made that deployment unique and that experience unique in my Marine Corps career.
Interesting. And yeah, I always ask people where they were on 9/11, but I've never asked them what did they remember about 9/12. That's I'm going to call that a we all serve moment. That was, because
again, I think 9/11 is, don't get me wrong, we certainly want to honor the sacrifice of those who gave it all on 9/11, but I think it's more important to understand for our community standpoint, especially these days with so much, tension out there. And y'all alluded to it in the opening. There's a lot people are dealing with right now. But if you remember that feeling, we did it. We had it at one point in time. Wouldn't it be great if we get back to that? Now, it's not going to be easy. I get that. That feeling was there, and it galvanized all of us. No matter, what's your race, no matter, what's your religion, we all were able to bond. So it's there. It's just, it's a long way to get it back.
No, and I'm so glad that you were able to spotlight that moment, because really, if you're thinking about now, you're thinking about then, there are some contrasts. There's some comparisons that you can draw. I mean, when you look at the morale of the country overall, and so the fact that we had probably the hardest hit on our soil ever, and then to bounce back in the next day with this spirit of resistance and spirit of we can do this together, lets me know, it always reminds me that we have hope. We can overcome any situation as long as we collectively overcome it. So, wow, fascinating stuff, sir. And, for me, as a Marine myself on the enlisted side, one of the questions I have for you, as a officer, and then retiring 25 years, wow. What was it like? What would you say your experience is like as an officer when you would interact with the enlisted side versus the officer side? What was the contrast, and kind of what can you share about those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think in some ways leadership's leadership. Whether you're an officer or you're enlisted, I tried not to see rank, and I think the thing that for me, my leadership style was one that I wanted every Marine to be treated the same. And I wanted them to know that I had their back, because we've all had bad leaders during our military time, and you actually probably learn more from bad leaders than you do good leaders. But a good leader to me is someone that doesn't see rank and is really trying to take the best interest of that Marine or sailor or soldier or airman and put them first. Because if that Marine knows you have his back, he will do anything for you, right? But if they think that you're worried about your career and you looking good and your accomplishments, it's not going to work out very well, and it can go very badly very quickly. But on the enlisted side, one of the things I loved, and this is when I was in command, I would meet every other week. I met with breakfast with 3 of our different enlisted Marines. So E2s, E3s, me, the sergeant major, and 3 of the Marines. Because again, by this point, I'm a colonel. You're pretty far removed from maybe the day-to-day life of that, E1, E2, E3 out there. And I would ask them, like, hey, what do you think of the command? What do you want to do? What if you were king for a day? What would you improve? How do we make this place better? And my sergeant major hated it sometimes, because I was getting the scoop from the guys on the floor with wasn't getting scrubbed by the time I got to the colonel. But over time, I think they started to appreciate that I was genuine in my caring for them and trying to make, our unit, make sure it wasn't just my command, it's their command too. And making it something where they feel happy, and their families, how do we get their families more involved? So I think it's that attitude, whether officer, whether enlisted, it's about putting the Marines, putting the soldiers, putting the sailors, putting the airmen first. If you do that, you're going to be successful as a leader. I think that's probably, to me, the key to my success as a Marine Corps officer.
Wow. Very insightful.
It is. And, I agree with that. Leadership is leadership ultimately. And now I'm curious, as we sort of transition this conversation into the civilian side, leadership is leadership. And, you go in 2014 and you retired, and I'm curious what the journey was, how you ended up at Amazon. I know that there's been, ups and downs. We're having this conversation in the end of September 2020, certainly a strange economy that we're in right now. You were just telling us just before we went live, Amazon continues to hire and so on. So I'm curious, you've witnessed an interesting couple of years of ups and downs. How did you find your transition from the military into the corporate world? And obviously, I'm curious how you continue to give back and continue to interact with those that have served.
Yeah, I honestly, I embraced the transition process, and I think if you're going to be successful, you have to. The networking piece of that was critically important to me. I do enjoy it though. I mean, I think this is one thing I would say. I had maintained in my military career, I maintained a lot of my high school friends, my college friends. So as much as I loved the Marine Corps, it didn't necessarily define who I was completely. And I often see folks in the Marine Corps that just becomes their only life, and they have no access to the outside world, and you become institutionalized. And I make the analogy, it's like Shawshank Redemption, where you're somebody on the inside, but to leave the walls of the Corps or leave the walls of any service, it's like it's them versus us. And I think I was pretty good about always maintaining a foot outside the gates of the Marine Corps. So when I did start the transition process, I just started talking to people and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting out. What do you do? How'd you, what does it mean to be, an entrepreneur? What does it mean to be this? And just talk to everyone, whether you wanted the job or not, just talking to people." And I really liked that. And to me, that was something that came natural to me. I also knew that I wanted to come back to the Tampa area. I live down in Tampa, Florida now. That was probably the primary driver for me. More because I had been here in Tampa from 09 to 12, working at SOCOM. Now my last tour was in Lejeune, but when I retired, that was the time for my wife to get a bigger vote in where we went in our life, and we picked Tampa. So that helped me narrow my focus on where I was going to work, and then start networking. So I found a great job working for a company called Custom Cable, a small company with about a little over 200 employees at the time, and I was basically their operations manager. We manufactured and installed fiber optic cable. That's what the company did. But I got to work in a little bit of everything, from marketing to sales to actually production of a thing. And I learned a ton, because again, in the military, it's great, but you also doesn't train you for everything in the civilian world either. The whole idea of a budget, for example, like in the military, money just kind of came. I don't know where it came from, but you needed it, it kind of showed up.
Right.
In the real world, if you don't make money, people lose their jobs. Like I was like, oh wait, this is like serious. I gotta sell some cable. But I enjoyed what I was doing. But it was a small company, and there wasn't a whole lot of ramp for opportunity to stay there too much longer. And the other piece, and this kind of comes to what I'm doing now in the veteran space, something was missing in my life. I didn't have that connection to the military, and I didn't know it was missing. I just had this feeling that I wasn't as fulfilled as I could be. And in that time at Custom Cable, we did the install work for two of Amazon's big fulfillment centers here in the Tampa area. Everything in those buildings runs on Wi-Fi. So we did the big installs. I literally started calling friends of mine at Amazon and saying, "Hey, how do I sell you more cable?" And this is how, I don't know how this cable thing works, but y'all clearly need this stuff, and I sell it now. And it just, again, because of your network, I had friends that had worked at Amazon. My calling on my friends at Amazon coincided with the pledge Jeff Bezos made back in 2016 to hire 25,000 veterans and military spouses. So from a discussion of selling cable, it leaned into, hey, we're getting ready to launch this program at Amazon focused on hiring veterans. Would you be interested in that? And again, I think that's where also it sparked my passion of, hey, you know what? I've been missing that piece in this first job. It was a great experience, but there's just so much more impact you can have. And that led to me taking on a job at Amazon that I have today. So, yeah.
Wow. Very, very great detail on that too, sir. And let me say as well that we talked about the dress blues and how they were influential in our decision, beside the fact that it's the best branch. But I have to say this, sir, that your dress blues, you took them off when you retired, but you got some of the baddest jackets I've ever seen at an event. I don't know if you want to show off your jacket that you got there with. But
Diggs by the Higgs, so it's a sequin, orange and navy blue. This is my UVA colors that I wore at my alumni event there.
Absolutely.
I have a guy in Pakistan that makes jackets for me. So you can go to www.diggsbythehiggs. If you want to look it up, you can buy a custom jacket for any occasion under the sun.
That was going to be my next question. Can I get the number to your tailor? But nice. No, that's wonderful, and you know, I really enjoyed hearing how you transitioned from the military and then eventually landed at what seems like, you know, the perfect job for you at Amazon. Like you said, to spark your passion and to reconnect you to your core, who you are and what you're all about. But also, I like how you said you kept, you know, a balance between your military family and the family that you had before you went into the service, which also helped you with your transition because you were already familiar with both worlds. And so, you know, I think the question I have for you because of that, you know, keeping that balance and understanding the importance of that. For one, how did you have a keen sense that you needed to do that? Or was it just something that happened naturally? And were you thinking about your future?
No, I think for me it just happened naturally. I come from a big family in New Orleans, and New Orleans was always a part of who I am. So I did stay connected to my family and my friends there. And same thing, you know, from college and University of Virginia, I had some good friends, and I was in DC for a lot of my tours in the military. So I had a lot of college friends that were in the area. So I think part of it just happened to be where I was stationed allowed me to kind of keep those connections. And then over time, I think at some point you do realize that, you know, the ride's going to end at some point in time. You don't know when you're going to get off the military, you know, train, but you do need to start, you know, have those connections when you get out, you know, and being able to stay connected is important. And again, part of it also was, you know, having done so many deployments that I did, I always thought it was important to share what I was doing with my civilian friends, right? So when I deployed, I probably would send out emails, you know, once every few weeks to say, hey, you know, not many people know folks in the military. So to tell, like, hey, I'm over in Afghanistan, this is what we're doing. I don't know what you're reading on the news, but this is what I'm seeing over here. And those type of things, I think, also just kind of helped me connect or keep non-veterans connected with the military, because so few people have that connection these days, you know. And I think that was something that I enjoyed, being able to kind of tell my story from a boots on the ground lens, and they enjoyed it too, because again, I think you don't hear those stories much. There's not much about, we have folks deployed right now in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and you never hear about that, you know? So to be able to keep the fact alive that we do have veterans that are out there every day on the front edge, I think is part of our job as folks that serve, is to tell our story about, you know, while we're in, about what we're doing, so people are aware of it. I think that's very important.
Amazing. So, sir, I want to ask you about the programs at Amazon, because I know you are so passionate about helping folks transition. You succeeded in your transition, I think, largely because of that network that you had. But for many that do not plan it, they have, as we said a little while ago in this conversation, incredible skills. Again, regardless of rank, regardless of branch, you come out with incredible skills. And military spouses too. I know your wife was incredibly supportive of your service. Everybody walks away with a lot of experience, but ultimately, you know, there are some great organizations, big businesses and small businesses, that help to apply that talent. Amazon is one of them, and I know that you are in a key position to help with that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Amazon, I mean, everybody has. I actually always refer, when I tell my soldiers I want to go through a SAM table or present sort of an op board. My instead of it used to be called a horseshoe formation, I now call it officially, I've labeled it an Amazon box formation. That's my new term that I use, and everybody likes to make fun of me for that. But we do an Amazon box formation, and so everybody's used to those boxes that they receive, but they don't know about the opportunities that are available. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
No, sure, happy to. And I think, one of the beauties of Amazon, and I admit we're probably unique in this way, is that no matter what your rank, no matter what your MOS or specialty or NEC, somewhere at Amazon, we probably need you, right? I need folks from the most junior veteran to load trucks, or went back home after service and is living at home for a while and just needs a job while they're going to school. I need that guy or that gal. I need forklift drivers. I need maintenance technicians. I need medical folks. I need corpsmen and doctors. Each one of our fulfillment centers has a little BAS or battalion aid station in them. So I need program managers, and I need public policy people. So you name it, I need it somewhere at Amazon. And that's kind of what, I always I enjoy being able to talk about that, because not every company needs everything. Some companies, only need a few, these or that. No matter what you did, somewhere at Amazon, I promise you, there's a fit for your skill set. But I also say, just because you drove a truck in the military doesn't mean you want to drive a truck at Amazon. And that's okay too. If you want to start new and go into the IT field, I need more IT folks than we could possibly hire right now. So you can start anew as an apprentice. So again, I think that's some of the nice thing is that we do need a little bit of everything. We also have dedicated programs, though, like apprenticeships, right? So we work with the Department of Labor particularly on IT focused and maintenance called mechatronics. We have a Department of Labor sponsored apprenticeship where your GI Bill can be utilized for you while you're going through these apprenticeship programs. We have internship programs called through the Skill Bridge program. So during your last 6 months of active duty, you can come and work at Amazon for free if your command lets you. And it's kind of a try before you buy program, right? Where you come in and you decide you work for us for 12 weeks or how many weeks it may be for that program. If you like us and we like you at the end, we're going to hire you on. We have programs that focus on kind of fast track for managers at more senior levels. So again, whatever it is, we can meet you where you are. Typically what I say is, look, if you can lead and you're comfortable in chaos and you're relatively good with data or just numbers in general, that's what I need. I need someone that can deal with chaos, because there's not going to be, Amazon is not black and white. It's a different problem at the pace and speed that are unlike any other company in America right now. But I think folks in the military are very used, especially if you've been deployed, you're used to operating on your own. It's not, nobody knows exactly how things are going to go on a deployment. You have to be able to react to that. So that type of attitude, that type of skill is very valuable to Amazon as a culture. And that's the last thing I'll talk about is just culture in general, right? Not everyone wants to work at Amazon, and that's fine too, right? I think it's so important to figure out what cultural you're looking for. Every one of our services has a different culture, right? We make fun of all the other services, and we obviously think the Marine Corps is the best, but every service has its own unique culture. Every company has a unique culture too. So again, if you're interested in Amazon, make sure you're a cultural fit. That it is something that you like, that that is really falls in line with who you are and what you want to be. It may not, and that's okay. It's okay to go somewhere else, and I'm happy to help you get a job anywhere. That's part of one of the greatest parts about being in this veteran hiring space is that we do work together. We do share talent. We're always trying to share best practices. If we're doing something right at Amazon when it comes to hiring veterans or military spouses or retention, I am happy to share that with my partners at USAA or JP Morgan or wherever it may be. We want this to work for veterans at a higher level just than our own company. So that's something that you don't see maybe in other parts of companies. But when it comes to veterans, we really are a team, even though we may work for other companies. That piece is, I think, also super important in being part of this veteran space.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it's so good to know that. And I think the question is out there right now, especially in the current environment with global pandemic and people in different scenarios, different stages of transitioning, whether they may have lost a job or they're about to be hired for a job, that there are companies out there like Amazon that is hiring in mass. We were talking before we came on about how just alone in Chicago, Amazon has several distribution centers we know that are going up, and they're hiring in mass numbers for those. So one of the things I want to make sure before you end this podcast, Beau, that we highlight where folks can go and apply for these positions and get a leg up, especially our veterans as well. So my question is, you've got this wonderful, spectacular Marine Corps career, 25 years, and then you transition into what sounds like another exciting opportunity and career with Amazon. But when you take your hat off at the end of the day, as a husband, as a father, what does a cool day of relaxing look like when you don't put the jacket on? You don't have the jacket on, and you're just relaxing. What does that look like for you?
I retired in Florida for a reason, so I'm a beach guy. So if I can be on the beach with a cooler of cold beers and some Jimmy Buffett playing, I'm a happy man. I don't need much.
Nice, Jimmy Buffett. I love it. I love it.
For me.
Nice. Yeah. So I mean, with all that being said, it's really, to me, it makes sense that the type of person that you are, sir, with your personality, I think it shined through in everything you did. I can almost imagine that as an officer in the Marine Corps, in which is kind of rare to say, that the folks that served under you loved you as an officer from the enlisted side, because you don't always get to know the person on that side. You salute, you follow through with your orders, but you don't get to know the person. But it seems like your personality is one that kind of shined through, regardless of the brief interactions you might have had. What's next? I mean, you've done everything. I mean, pretty much. You were a Marine, so you did everything already when you were a Marine. But I got to keep jabbing at them on the other side there. But I mean, what would be next for you? I know you're at Amazon now, and that is fulfilling, and that's a passion of yours. But if you had a dream next scenario or a thing you do now, what would that be?
That's a great question, and I'm probably not that far from the end of my time working here, and hopefully get to retire sometime soon. I think I know it will involve being involved in the veteran space in some way, shape, or form. That is what kind of gives me my mojo. Whether it's with Amazon or really maybe something just in the Florida area where I can, be someone that's providing advice to veterans, whether it's resumes or interviewing, or just to be someone that's connecting and helping folks out. I mean, what keeps me motivated is being able to give back and help others. And we had in the high school I went to, we always talk about being a man for others. That was like the mantra of Jesuit high school. And that concept of being a man for others, I think, is what will drive me in my next career, and whatever that looks like. And again, it may be something a little slower paced than Amazon eventually, but I think it still will be something that's involved in hiring, supporting, educating veterans to be able to be successful, because it's hard. Transition is hard. And I see folks that are leaving, especially now with the challenges of the economy. People are coming out and they're scared. And if you can take away that, give them a job, that's just, you can see people that's a huge relief for them. So, I think the network that I have, while it's great that I can get folks to the door at Amazon, it will also allow me to stay engaged in the veteran space in some way, shape, or form, to continue to give back. Don't know what that is yet, but in some way, that's what I'd like to do.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you for continuing to serve. My last question for you, sir, is just regarding your wife. Actually, I know it's the spouses that support us that serve, and your wife Elizabeth, I know, has supported you. You did give in, I know, to settle down in the Tampa area. And I know you mentioned that was in large part due to your wife. I know that at Amazon, there's a team dedicated to military spouses, which I think is fantastic. So is there any advice that you have for those, either to the spouses that are tuning in, to those with spouses, of how to have that balance, and even for those like myself in the reserve or the guard, that are balancing, civilian, military, family. I mean, I tell Robert a little bit. I was just telling him about something I was just dealing with. It's constant. The pressures are constant. Any advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nice thing with Amazon and looking for a spouse, for guard and reservists, who we certainly target them too as far as our hiring programs is. I think right now it's a unique time in that the workforce of the future is changing, right? Amazon used to be pretty strict about, we had very few remote jobs. Things kind of had to be, in Seattle, or many of our roles were in brick and mortar locations. I think the opportunity to shift how we view remote work for spouses in particular is a big deal. Because spouses do face those challenges of having to, if their spouse is deployed, they can't come and work a 9-to-5 job. Doesn't mean they're not qualified, though. So being able to adjust our workforce to meet the spouses where they are is a big deal, and we are trying to do that. And we're working internally to Amazon to get different businesses to commit to hiring, more spouses. We talk about that every week. So we're hosting now a weekly podcast or a weekly webinar every Thursday, and I'll share the link with y'all. But every Thursday, we have a webinar solely targeting veterans and military spouses. We have a military spouse program manager on the call every week, and we talk about those opportunities for veterans, for transitioning service members, for spouses, because all their needs may be different, and that's okay. And we need all of that in the military community, right? That's what makes the village what it is. We need all of those people, and they all bring certain different things to the table, which are all valuable. So again, I think, if folks are interested in learning more, like I said, every Thursday we have the webinars, very informative about the interview process, the resume, things we're looking for at Amazon, and specifically, how do you start and where do you go to kind of get your foot in the door? And again, that's what we certainly value what veterans and spouses bring to the fight, and we're here to help them, get here and be successful careers at Amazon, from now and down the line.
And we'll certainly add that to the show notes to make sure folks can find that webinar, and we'll link to the military landing page. Lots of opportunities, and thank you for spotlighting that as well as your service. And appreciate you joining in. Robert, anything I missed?
You didn't say that you're appreciative that he is a Marine. You didn't mention that. But I will say it.
I am appreciative.
You said thank you for your service. No.
Ultimately, we all serve, right?
Yes, we all serve, and sir, you can see we go back and forth. This is just an ongoing thing, but no, I very much appreciate your service, your 25 years of dedicated service in the Corps, and then what you're doing with Amazon, which is amazing, and military spouses, as my co-host, my brother, pointed out as well. I marvel at people that are able to do what you do, have a family, and do it with a smile. So it's a pleasure to have you on, and we got to have you back. And I think next time, to just honor you, I'll have a colorful jacket myself once I call the tailor and get my size and everything. So if you could put a good word in for me, that'd be great.
I got a guy here. I'm happy to help. No, great.
Got a guy.
I really appreciate it. It's my pleasure to be here today. And I want to emphasize the fact that Amazon puts their money where their mouth is when it comes to hiring veterans. And if anyone out there can reach out to me on LinkedIn, find me Beau Higgins, and I promise you I'll get back to you. That's the best way to find me. And if I can help any way I can, I'm happy to. Thanks again, gents.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We all serve. Check out. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll post all of the links to Amazon's military hiring. Thank you so much, Beau Higgins, for joining us, and looking forward to seeing everybody back on the next episode of We All Serve.